styles. But Lowely, back when we saw him on this map, went again for that roach pressure that we saw early on. What do you think Lowely has in mind with this kind of choice as opposed to some of the other macro maps we may see?
Yeah, I think he's just saying to himself, hey, let's go to a map that I'm very comfortable with. This is on ladder, of course. And let's go to, I don't know, Daybreak, because it is one of the maps that, you know, Zergs do rather well on. Or anecdotally, Zergs do rather well on. I know it's pretty even right now with our statistics.
Andre.
What?
Lowely just went for extractor trick, and he's delayed his Overlord so significantly. Whoa, this is so... I have not seen this kind of variation of an extractor trick Overlord in a very long time. It was extremely delayed.
Might I don't know.
Go for an early pull or what?
I don't think we should be overcritical on that. It could have been just a mistake or something.
No, I wasn't sure, you know, because it's so interesting because everyone for a long time was trying to debate extractor trick versus 9 Overlord. But
yeah,
well, it's just his style. It just loses. It's just a couple mineral difference.
Exactly.
I thought it was like an 11 pull or something weird.
Now, let me go into a little bit of the psychology of what I would do in this position if I was Ryung. Think of what happened in that last game, okay? And think, the object of the game is to obviously break your opponent, to win, but also to crush them, crush their soul, make it meaningless for them to live. So you just went into a situation where you know you were so far behind and you just outplayed your opponent and then got super far ahead and won the game. I would actually cheese from here if I was Terran. If I was in Ryung's position, because what's more crippling than going into a game you know you won, then you lose it, and then you get cheese and destroyed. Now, there is a chance that that he loses, obviously, the cheese. But in the event that he wins, there's almost a 100% certainty that he will win the total best of 5 because your opponent's just shattered from there. Not only did they feel like they were going to win, you just got like a quick win off of them as well. It feels cheesy. It doesn't feel like it's legitimate. You feel like, oh, I should have been winning this whole time, and it puts you on tilt. And, you know, like...
You're describing this in such authentic detail, Andre.
Exactly. I sit next to Bitter, dude. I sit next to Mr. Bitter.
And then all that's left of Bitter is a broken shell of a man.
And then I crush him. I say, Bitter, yeah, go 3 hatch before pool, and then I 2-racks the guy. That's what I did.
Well, that's not actually what happened when you played him the other day. You just went straight up Marine Heli and killed him.
Boom. I love how you just mentioned that on cast. Even though Bitter is in the channel talking to everyone.
It's okay. Ben's been playing a lot of ladder. He's actually, you know, Mr. Bitter the other day was playing a lot of ladder, and you know, of course, everyone knows Mr. Bitter plays Zerg, and he's like, wow, you know, I've never won 10 games in a row in ladder ever since I got Masters, and he finally got it. So
congratulations,
congrats, Mr. Bitter. He's been playing some of the best StarCraft in a while.
Yeah.
In a long while.
I mean, low Masters is really, really difficult sometimes. Okay, I'm just kidding.
Like barely scratching low Masters
kidding.
with my Terran because it's like
kidding.
I'm still trying to learn Terran. You can see Ryung is getting his bunker close to his command center. Very standard. Of course, he's a little bit more cautious this time. Last game, he didn't even get a bunker. Now he's going to respect Lowely a little bit more, especially since Lowely's going for that early roach war. And like we said before,
I can't
5
believe,
minutes.
Now that I actually look back into the last game, you're absolutely right. He got so far ahead.
And why not the same thing?
You know, Bitter said it best on chat. I won the game, I lost the game, I won the game, I lost the game. That was Lowely's mentality the whole time. It's like, yes, got an advantage. No, lost the advantage and more. Yes, killed his command center. No, lost all my drones.
It's such an emotional roller coaster as well because, you know, you feel like things wouldn't matter too much outside factors to like the perfect player, right? To someone like Stefano who doesn't really have their emotion invested in the game. But if you're winning, you play fast, you play more efficient, you start having more confidence, and that goes a really long way. Now, Lowely wants that similar confidence. Whoa! But he's going up to 10 roaches this time. Before, last time he pressured with 7, 8. But now he's investing a lot of his larva. Now, what's so interesting is that he's been doing this off of 1 gas. Sometimes we see Zergs throw in a 2nd gas at Baneling Nest and go Roach Bane, but you can see that Lowely is going to go for a very, very quick amount of roaches.
Yeah, this is an eco bust. What he's trying to do is go this roach tech, force his opponent to be caught off, or not force his opponent to be caught off guard, catch his opponent off guard, force him to be super defensive, and then ultimately you're just going to get a huge drone lead because, you know, they're preparing for some sort of roach circling Baneling all in. Although, once he sees this and he says, wow, that's a lot of roaches, he should actually say to himself, this is not going to be a Zergling Baneling bust. You don't have enough gas to actually produce this many roaches and get Banelings out in the same time. Because think, Metabolic Boost cannot be up with roaches out this early, trekking across the map this fast.
Yep. And so now we see Lowely moving in with his roaches. He's going to walk up the ramp this time and see that the base has been locked down by his one depot. Trying to bust through, and he does get it. Ryung can't make any more units. He only has one more Marauder in production, and this is very key for you to keep that Marauder alive. Ryung trying to prioritize that Marauder's life, but the roaches are not targeting it down, just going for the Hellions instead. Finally starting to move in, and then Marauder immediately drops. Now, Lowely does have some pretty good positioning in terms of taking out more SCVs, but you can see that Ryung is saving his units with the medevac. A very nice, cute dropship play, but a lot of workers have been killed. And now we can see Lowely in a very similar position to game number 1, where he's managed to pick off 11 workers. He picked off 12 in game number 1.
Everybody, what should Lowely be careful for right now?
This is like save and load tool, man. In game number 2, like we resume from the exact same things. Like, no, go back to game number 1. I want to redo that. Lowely has 47 drones. He's gonna go up to 50 really quick, and he has to just be careful of those Hellions, because that's exactly what Ryung did last time. And the Banshees, but you can see that Ryung not switching just yet for the Banshee.
And Lowely. Okay, Lowely's making a spine crawler. All right. And 20 Zerglings are inbound as well. Metabolic Boost is finished. Lowely coming out with the timing. Smash and face taking names. Income tab showing 47 to 35. So it's actually equal harvesters right now. The big difference, I would say, is where's that third orbital command center? Nowhere to be found, sir.
Yeah, Ryung is really banking off those Hellions to do well. You can see immediately picking up and dropping that main base. But you can see that Ryung is still poking around. You can see that third base from Lowely. But Ryung's also has just been flirting with the main a lot, trying to see if he can poke in and out. But for the most part, Lowely looks like he's set up this game a lot better in terms of his follow-up after the roaches.
Oh, yes. This game is looking a lot better for Lowely. I would actually say he's ahead, just because this third orbital command center has been started up quite substantially later than it should be. And the Banshee tech, delaying this Banshee is actually pretty instrumental. The Banshee, like, you need to increase the numbers, and since all you're doing is making it or delaying it by, let's say, a minute, what it effectively does is gives you a shorter time between when the Banshees actually pop out and, let's say, infestors. You can see the infestation pit is up, or even Spire tech. So you have that like a minute less to do something with all of these units. So it's actually really important that you delay those Banshees, and obviously because of that, Lowely is nicely ahead.
Lowely does go for upgrades a lot earlier as well, prioritizing his melee upgrades. Now, Lowely, of course, is getting his Infestation Pit, something that he's pretty fond of. Lowely has been using his Infestors very well. Now, he does have to worry about this Banshee at the third. His Queen's getting targeted, but you can see immediate Transfuse should save that. So Lowely's been very good, and because Ryung hasn't really been able to climb back with his harassment, Ryung is just going to sit back and macro. Now, what's so interesting, though, is that Lowely hasn't been droning. He's still stuck around the low 50s, and Ryung actually caught up in workers.
That's okay right now because 17 drones are on the way out, but more importantly, the tech is, you know, you have to like invest in all of these units to just defend against this very troublesome build. Hellion Banshee has become a pretty big problem for Zerg these days. I wouldn't say it's like the key thing to actually play in TVC. It's just one of those things you want to incorporate into your build, but still a very potent build. But we can see here the Hellions are going to roast quite a bit of drones yet again before the Queens can actually take everything out. Barracks is going to fly in. That's an obvious indicator that we are up against mech. Yeah.
You see the double armory already has been started for quite some time now. Ryung's been able to catch up and upgrades. Lowely has a pretty massive supply block. And now you can see he's starting to free more up of his supply, but has not really been able to get out significant units. Would love to be pumping Infestors by this mid-game, but you can see he's prioritizing Roaches at this point because he sees more Hellion activity. That said, Ryung does have his third base done. He's going to move out soon to take it. But Ryung, the one thing that I really enjoyed that his play on Ohano is that he fought for really good position, make sure that if Lowely ever traversed close to his third, he'd protect it. Daybreak's a little bit trickier, though, in that regard.
Daybreak's obviously a lot longer, so things can be a little bit difficult to actually pressure from both sides, I would say. That's why we see only 3 factories up right now. That is the more defensive role. and he's actually still committing to the Banshees. It's actually important to get those Banshees up. That way you don't empower something like Infestors, Infestor Roach, where, you know, Infestors just take absolutely everything, all the units from the Terran, and then, you know, the Thors are working against you. So just a little bit of, you know, a side note. For now...
Lowely engaging the middle of the map, though. Trying to engage, at least. You can see that he was really anxious to. But he doesn't have him pretty in critical upgrades. And I'm sorry, Andre, I was interrupting you.
No, no. I was
what were you trying to say?
I was doing filler.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
Well, sort of. I was just going to say the Banshees are so important to actually not lose.
Lowely's moving with Queens and Festerling Roach. And those Banshees are doing a phenomenal job just zoning off, really trying to pressure the units off. Exactly what you need to do with those Banshees, and he saves them by wasting energy. The Hellions also get a pretty good shot on the Zerglings, and Lowely's not really able to do that much damage at the third. Phenomenal zone defense here from Ryung, and he pushes Lowely back. Now, Lowely has 17 Roaches in production, but the big thing is that his Infestor energy has been used significantly on fungling the Viking, trying to shoot Infested Terrans to push back the Banshee, so he doesn't have that much room for a good engagement.
Oh no, and these Queens are just being caught so hard here. This is a pretty big investment. I mean, having these Queens trek across the whole map, you never want to lose them. You can see the creep isn't even that great to even justify a loss right there. And what he was trying to do is target down the third base, say, okay, well, you're taking this third base. I think there's a timing, but obviously there wasn't. I think if he just stayed on getting or doing Infestor, run-bys, he would have been a lot better, or at least try to do a little bit of damage with Burrow Infestors rather than trying to do what he did right there.
Ryung now moving out for his fourth base while Lowely's still on 3. That is going to be very difficult for Lowely to follow up in terms of remaxing nonstop, just because, again, you would like to be on more gases by now. We've been seeing Zerg try to squeeze in 4th, 5th bases a lot sooner to get that gas count high. Lowely at this point now getting his Spire tech up, but he's still on layer 17 minutes the game. Really needs to start thinking about when he can get that Hive tech, but now that Ryung has a pretty strong position, it's really tough because he's never sure if he's going to get caught at a timing. But Ryung is just sitting back, just trying to play more macro. You can see that he's only about 150 supply, but he's going to jump up soon as he can get his 4th base and his 2 additional factories starting producing.
Correct, and he really doesn't have to pressure in until he gets additional siege tanks. I mean, right now it's just the waiting game where his gas is just slowly starting to trickle in, and he can the power of his army is just going to be so much stronger as time goes on. Whereas the Zerg's army over here, Lowely, really isn't going to increase that substantially. And going into this terrible position, I really don't know what Lowely's doing here.
He took a huge amount of damage, but luckily his Infestors did not drop, but the Hellions are in hot pursuit, and he forced these a fungal immediately. Now that's an excellent fungal to keep the units in place, and the Roaches are all charging forward outside of the siege tank range. Ryung is not going to be able to fight on those grounds. Now the Banshees do put a lot of damage and push back the units, but that was a very dangerous spot for Ryung, and good thing he pulled back. If he lost all those Thors, man, go back to the drawing board.
Definitely, and on top of that, you really shouldn't fungal Banshees like that if you know you're not going to kill them, because it's just a waste of energy. And we've seen this time and time again from Lowely. He's just not using his energy very wisely. You see, a couple of Infested Terrans being thrown out, Banshees just run away. You see Fungal Growth's doing stuff, and Repair is just going to go up and help everything out. Things have just not been going right for Lowely this whole game, and it's going to be very difficult to actually stop this inevitable amazing push that Ryung has.
The big thing on Daybreak is that there are 2 paths. Actually, well, it's 3 if you count the center, but usually you can cover both one side if you push down the center, and that's ultimately what Ryung might want to do. But there are potential spots for counterattack. Oh yeah, so you can see Ryung immediately starting to work on the center, but there are potential paths to counterattack. But Ryung's been really good about putting up the sensor tower as well, just to control zones. So he's going to see immediately the side that Lowely is trying to attack on, and he can just cover that area. And so normally Daybreak's a good map where you can kind of, pull your opponent back and forth depending on the north and southern pathways. But with this huge push coming down the center, this is going to be extremely hard for Lowely to stop. He's going to have to get the most miraculous fungal and engage.
Yeah, and on top of that, the Banshees, I mean, they're the ones that are zoning out so many units here. This is a really tough problem, and we're going to see a ton of Infested Terrans coming out here pretty soon. Oh my god, and here we have it.
Oh, a huge amount of Infested Terrans dropped into the army at the same time. Lowely dropping the main as well. A huge amount of damage to the mechanized army. A lot of Thors are dropping extremely quickly. The Infested Terrans are working as well, but they are dropping as quickly as flies. And you can see that immediately the Banshees clean up the drop back at home, and Lowely down in a lot of supply. A huge amount of roaches are on the way. 31 roaches. And so Lowely will have to have basically his entire army in production rally pointed, and Ryung has a very small window where he can shut down one of Lowely's important bases.
Yeah, I think Lowely will be able to clean this up pretty easily, but you know, it's just the fact that Ryung is doing so much damage here. The whole Remax has been going to roaches, and that's actually a really good time for Terran, because all they have to do is still prepare against this mass ground. But look at this, the roaches are actually going to die, forcing another round of roaches. He wants all of his gas to be actually allocated towards hive units, and he just cannot do that. Beautifully done by Ryung so far.
Still pressuring, keeping those Banshees alive, really protecting them from the Corruptors, although Lowely is now working on them as well. Really wants to shut them down because they add too much DPS for the Thors to basically one or two shot those roaches because of how soft they become. You see Lowely targeting down the Thor as well, really pushing back and trying to gain ground in this tug of war down the center of Daybreak. Ryung does have 5 bases now. Lowely is going to have his 4th base shut down, and Lowely really can't keep up with production of Terran. If he loses this base, you can see no matter what happens, Lowely's been trying to hold. He's been rallying all of his roaches accordingly, but that's not going to be enough. You can see Ryung is now pounding on that base. And what can Lowely really do? He's just making non-stop roaches, and just like you said, Andre, he has no flexibility for that hive tech usage whatsoever.
Exactly. It's almost like it's wasted tech at this point, because he isn't upgrading, he isn't getting ultras, he isn't getting broodlords. It's just wasted investment. And he could have potentially used all of that to shut down this pressure very efficiently and then go to hive tech. Unfortunately, he just was not able to do that. And against a 3-3 mech army, when you are only a simple 2-1, I mean, you are not looking to trade very effectively unless your opponent is terribly out of position.
Yeah, a big story of this entire series so far has been the upgrades, the double armory from Ryung, getting 3-3 on all of his army. And you can see that's really coming to play. Lowely taking a greater spire, but he's going to be stuck on one base economy, basically, at this point. He does have gas, is still mining, but he's actually going to run out of gas very soon in his main, and that's going to be tough. And there is the victory upgrade. High-sec auto-tracking in the GG from Lowely. Lowely saw that somehow. He's like, oh, man. High-sec auto-tracking, better GG.
He actually Skype chatted Lowely throughout this time. He's like, yo, I'm upgrading high-sec auto-tracking.
Next is building armor. That as the ultimate
Next is building armor. You want it? You want it? And he said, don't want. Don't want. And he left the game. GG.
Everyone talks about the next level of BMing is like they send their Hunter-Seeker missiles after their own units and like explode them. No. You build an engineering bay next to them and you upgrade high-sec auto-tracking.
Or you type GG armor with auto turrets. That works too.
That'd be pretty funny.
That would be awesome.
Game number 2 goes to Ryung. We want to thank Azo, the people who provide monitors for NASL Season 3. Pick up yours at azo.com/NA. We'll be back with game number 3 between Lowely versus Ryung. Lowely has an uphill climb. He cannot lose a single game at this point. Will he make the comeback? Game 3 will be a good start. We'll be back after this short message. Andre, you should share that stream. What you just shared with me.
I'm not
I don't know why you say that for a commercial. That's like the biggest knowledge bomb that I've heard in a long time. And
I'm not going to.
He like saves it.
All right, I'll say it. I'll say it. I was sharing it with you because, you know, we're trying to teach each other.
Yeah, I know.
That's the circle of life.
It is.
What I was saying
Education.
is, you know, why did Lowely lose that? and it's actually rhetorical. I'm going to answer. It's not rhetorical. It's self-answering. Whatever it is. Why did Lowely lose that? The position of the fourth base was so critical. That was something that if I were going back into that, I was analyzing as a pro player, I would say that is the most incorrect move you could possibly do. Having your bases there actually says I have a point to defend. The center of the map is a great place to engage, but you don't want to be forced to engage at that point. Sometimes you want to wait it off. You want as much time as possible to get your upgrades, roaches, whatever composition you need. The problem was Lowely should have gone into the bottom right-hand position rather than the center position. What it basically says is if you want to kill that base, you push across map. Is Lowely really going to face a push that goes from all the way to the left-hand side to the bottom right? That's like attacking the main directly. It doesn't make sense. What he has to do is still traverse in that center of the position where it's big open areas, and then he could obviously be in an advantageous surround. Now, Andre, what if those siege tanks and Thors go from the bottom side? Then you're in a terrible position where it's like, those Thors and everything are doing a lot of damage because it's chokes. Well, then you have all of your opponent's units bottled up all the way in the bottom side where they can't really zone anything, and you have a counterattacking option. And
the entire top side was exposed. We're talking about pushing down the center through Daybreak. And it's just really tough, especially, just like you said, the reason why is because Lowely didn't have time. He wanted time, and time was a resource he couldn't afford because he makes his expansion in the center, and that's a huge source of income for his Hive Tech. He needs to protect that area, but he couldn't hold it, and that's pretty much what costed him. Now we go to game number 3 immediately on dual site.
Let's do it,
between these two players. Lowely did choose this map, and we'll see whether or not Lowely will have the chops to keep up with this Korean Terran who's been on fire.
On fire! The winner here. The winner here goes into the playoffs. The loser goes home.
Well,
After
actually,
9,
Lowely's in Belarus, so the winner stays home.
stays home.
It's win or stay home. And then all the gamers are like, oh, no, I don't want to stay home. Actually, that's exactly what they want to do.
That's exactly what they want to do.
All right, let's introduce our players. In the bottom left corner, we have Ryung as the blue Terran from Team Slayers. Up against Lowely, Anton Plabanovic from Belarus. The yellow Zerg in the top right corner on Team FXO. Now, Lowely has been opening up Roach aggression early on for both games. Dual Site is another map that's actually pretty good for that because the expansion is pretty exposed. It's really hard to cover it with like one bunker, so usually if Terran wants to be safe, they make a couple. But I haven't been playing too much Dual Site because it's not on ladder. So, Andre, what do you think about this for early and mid-game teams?
Command Center first. Best opening ever.
Even on Dual Site?
Even on Dual Site,
wow,
Command Center first.
That's so risky.
It doesn't, no, man. It's not risky.
What if Zergs go pool first, like someone did to me on ladder today? I was like,
it's okay.
Wow, who goes pool first? And
if you're scared of that, you
like,
make your Command Center on the top. You put your supply depot right here, where he has it. The Command Center goes in this big choke, and then the barracks goes over.
You always tell me put the Command Center on the low
man,
ground.
who cares? Okay, if they go pool first, so you just say, okay, build order lost, whatever, man.
That's okay.
You're not going to do that.
Andre was just like, just leave that game. I'm like, wow. I'm going to stay in it and fight till the end.
That Zerg is a scrub, man. Don't even worry about that cheesing idiot. Goes pool first. Who does that? He probably went like 17 pool, too, and is like, I got the rush off.
Silly. But now we can see Lowely's going to go for a build. That's actually not silly at all, going for a hatchery. But he is getting gas really quickly. But that's kind of a bit what Lowely's been doing. He hasn't necessarily been the one favoring delayed gas, getting a lot of queens, and trying to go for just heavy macro early on. He's been trying to threaten his opponent's position. Now, the big thing also is that Ryung's been delaying scouting for quite some time, but now he's going to scout a lot earlier this time, and he sees the gas, and he has to at least be wary of what Lowely's capable of, because both games in a row he's been dropping to like low 20 up against like 50 drones, and that's always a scary spot for Terran.
It's a scary spot for Lowely, in my opinion, because you've gotten ahead both games and you lose both games. What's crazy? I think Lowely obviously laissez-faire. If it ain't broke, don't fix it type of deal. Hands off. And he should just do the same exact build, man. Just go with the roaches. Ain't no thing.
I mean, if Lowely loses, this is the end of his season, and no one wants to stay home early, as the saying goes. But you can see that
That's
Lowely.
That's precisely right.
Lowely is he is getting speed a lot earlier, something a little bit different than he changed up before. But you can see also that Ryung is going to go for 2 more barracks immediately. He's going to change up his style, and that's what the whole psychology of best of 5, immediately changing up his game plan, going for bio, or at least what it looks like.
Yeah.
Going for bio.
It's definitely going to go for bio. It's going to look like almost a Terran versus Protoss build, where it's going to probably be an engineering bay. There's a couple of variations to this. You can go, instead of the engineering bay, you can go double reactors and then go for the factory, or you can go just add-on lists barracks, which
naked
I think,
barracks.
Naked barracks, and then go for the factory immediately. Those are the 2 main options.
And you can see that Lowely is preparing a lot of Zerglings and his speed. Now, what's so hard about recognizing this build is the fact that Zerg usually does this off 2 gases. Lowely's doing this off of 1. And he's going to go for a huge amount of banelings early on. Either that or I have no idea what he's going to do with that many Zerglings, but I'm pretty sure that he's going to do a lot of aggression with this. Now, combat shields is prioritized from Ryung. It's a very safe option, very smart. In fact, that he's getting an engineering bay as well, so he can line up his times accordingly. And you can see that his bunker placement is actually really good to cover the entire command center, but if Lowely is smart, he doesn't have to necessarily go for that bunker whatsoever. And you can see Ryung's also feeling insecure. He's pulling SCVs already from his natural to his main.
How does he know this is coming?
The watched.
Oh, okay.
I think he saw it coming, so saw a lot of Zerglings. He's pulling some SCVs just to be cautious. He doesn't know for sure. That's why he's leaving some SCVs.
Oh, look at this. I think he might have scanned or something. Yes, he did scan. And there's 2 bunkers that are going down.
Oh, yeah, he scanned immediately. But as you can see, the Zerglings do get detonated onto the bunker.
Oh, don't do it, Lowely. Don't go up into the main.
The Marauder also absorbs a lot of blows, and Lowely doesn't really have that much power behind this Baneling bust. And Ryung is stabilized pretty significantly.
Yeah.
I mean, Lowely had a great time right before combat shields, but because Ryung was prepared,
yeah, you see a bunker. You know you don't have a lot of Banelings there. Why are you pushing in? There's no reason to. Okay, Banelings for supply depots, not bad, but not great, man. And off of this, there's a big economic advantage. Even though it doesn't look like that, the income is different for now. What we have is 22 plus 9. Mules are 4.5, so it's equal harvester count, but the advantage goes to Terran because combat shields is already finished, and you're going to have stim finished as well.
And what's so big is that Lowely had a couple Banelings go in that bunker that had 1 Marine in it. And we were just saying he doesn't have to necessarily go for that bunker with the Banelings. He can just kind of ignore it. Or he can just, force the thing to lift and then just head on home, get his economic advantage. But just like you said, forcing his way in wasn't necessarily the best option. Now, Lowely's droning back at home, getting up his tech. Now he's getting his 3rd base a lot quicker than we're normally used to. And if Lowely, if he plays the deny game for long enough, you never know. Pretty wonky things can happen if Ryung is forced to play on 1 base, if he's getting careless with his units. But one thing that's been good is that Ryung has been so good in his positioning, even in that Baneling bust. I love how he positioned his bunkers. He put the Marauder in front. Lots of good things for Ryung going on for him right now.
Okay, so I think Ryung is, after looking at this, still in a tough position, whether or not he should push it. Well, never mind. Almost. This has. How did the SCV get in there?
Yeah, actually, the queen. 1 queen denies a worker currently based off its range. So
I cannot believe that. That's actually a pretty big tell for Ryung, in my opinion. He should actually push in right now, knowing that he has +1 and Stim's going to finish. Know that it's about to finish. Get your movement and then. Or get your position
as well, and Lowely hasn't had time to really saturate it. You can see he's making more drones, so yeah, by the time he would get there, that'd be a perfect time because Lowely just finished another round of drones.
Yeah, I don't know why he's not reacting off this. The SCV was like beautiful. It's like, your opponent has like no units out in the field. Just go, man. Go, Ryung.
Well, at this point, you may be asking, is it smarter for Lowely to be offensive or defensive? He has to just continue to focus on his macro. What's been sabotaging Lowely in the past couple games? The fact that he hasn't had good transitionary macro. He hasn't been able to really switch in between tech. He hasn't been able to really pump out a significant amount of units nonstop unless it's just pure roaches. You can see this time he's getting his upgrades and getting his spiral significantly earlier time. And one thing that he's also been trying to do this game a little bit better is spread his creep initially out. And as long as he connects his bases in creep, I think Lowely will be in a lot better position than he did in games 1 and 2.
Still, this push is going to be so difficult to stop. +1 is already finished with excellent macro. You can micro. You can actually take out all these bases. Oh, it has speed already. Look at that. Very nicely done. He needs to split a little bit better, though.
It looks like he does lose several of those Marines, but enough survive to make Lowely
just get in between somewhere over here. Perfect. Perfect. Now Splusion over there. No, he's forced to pick up.
He lost the position.
Yeah, I mean, he could actually go in between the mineral patches, and he's really good to go. But obviously that didn't happen. In the meantime, we do have 1-1 about to finish for Lowely. Once he establishes that, he will be able to, I think, start to, really crank out his 3-base economy and play it safe rather than being so subject to all of the harass.
Yeah, and you can see the Queens immediately discover the drop in the main base. Ryung, just as quickly as he dropped it, will have to evacuate. Ryung also does have a drop in the top left, but he's also recalling it back home. Looks like he's going to start thinking about his third base immediately. He does have plans to eventually expand. Third base is a little bit hard for Terran to secure, though, on dual site. Not only just because of the pure avenues, but because of the open space. You can just kind of come in from any direction. But speaking of coming from any direction, the Banelings and trying to go straight for the Marines, but pretty decent pullback from Ryung will allow him to clean up the rest of his army. And Lowely all of a sudden will have to commit even more larvae to Zerglings that aren't exactly the best in this scenario, just because he doesn't have that huge number of Zerglings. Normally, if you're going to go Fizzling style, you have 70, 80, even up to 100 Zerglings at this point. And Lowely's just trekking into the low 40s at this point.
Yeah, this is a big problem for Lowely, in my opinion. I think part of the problem right now is his inability to actually produce quality units from larva. And, it's tough in this position, but what he needs is time. And he has to get, like, a battle won very nicely to have those extra, 1 or 2 minutes to say, okay, I can get infestors and they can get their own energy. Or I can get a good mute account and then put them to non-defensive positions. But if he gets mutas at this point, it's like he's relegated to defending with them. Mutas are not good at defending.
Yeah, Lowely does have that Spire tech out and available to him. He does not have his Infestation Pit, something that he's been accustomed to in the past couple games. Ryung just knows where his opponent is at all times. Man, great tracking. And just sniffing out, and he's trying to see if he can engage the Zerglings and the Banelings, trying to see if he can bait it out. The tank's doing a phenomenal job targeting down the Banelings. And you can see Ryung cleaning up a huge amount of this force, is really pressuring Lowely. And keeping those Marines alive in mass has been huge for Ryung.
Okay, so mutas have been made. And this can be very dangerous for Lowely, in my opinion. They're relegated to defending, but if Ryung has been really good with macro, he should be able to punish this pretty harshly. Mutas are not good defensively. They can be easily countered by good micro, in my opinion, just because the Baneling count is going to be so severely hindered. And we're going to see Ryung try to push for this third base. Let's see how well he does.
Well, the big thing is that Ryung does have that base up in the top left, and Lowely's expanding to the bottom right, so both players are already starting to split the map in terms of control. And these mutas, just like you said, needs to do their job and buy time for Lowely. But what is Lowely trying to build up to? He's making more Zerglings. At this point, he's flying his mutas straight into the Marines. Doesn't want to do that. But you can see Lowely just continue traversing the map, but what is his game plan? I'm trying to figure out at this point. Is Lowely just trying to tech up to hives, just trying to mass up units, Andre? What should Lowely be doing at this point?
I mean, Lowely actually is doing pretty well here, even though he's lost so much larva and really expensive units. Somehow or another, it just feels like Ryung doesn't have the macro at this point. He should be having a lot more units, in my opinion, for this inevitable push, but he just doesn't have anything. 100 supply, 248. Now, what he does have are these 2 engineering bays. That'll help out with the 2-2 timing, but still you can see these mutas. They've done a little bit of damage here. Killed a lot of SCVs. Let's check it out right now. 13 total throughout the whole game. I don't know if that's been only through the mutas. But I feel like this investment that Lowely did, it bought time, but it was just very risky to do.
It bought time, but his Infestation Pit is just starting. I mean, he hasn't been able to get Infestors out to accrue energy.
Yeah.
And we've been saying Lowely been able to get that Infestation Pit out has been pretty significant. Now he's going for a massive run by This is pretty much the Exodus ×2. You can see there's so many Zerglings completely invading the Terran base. And this is going to be incredibly difficult for Ryung if he loses a huge amount of production. But, you know, Lowely hasn't really been targeting much. He's making Baneling straight in the mineral line, but it's going to be a long time before those units finish. And Ryung has a pretty decent position, trying to see if he can catch the Thor out of, out of spot. And
Lowely is throwing away so many units. I don't know what he's doing here. The Banelings are just so awkward. If he wants to do that, do it beforehand, burrow them, and make, you know, Baneling landmines. But, my God, I think he just opened himself for the most gigantic timing in the world. I don't think there really existed a time before that. But now, you know, this one Reaper that was made can probably go into the main, force a ton of units over. No, I'm just kidding. You know, he's just going to push. And 2-2 against 2-2 right now, it's a pretty nice time for him to do a ton of damage.
Ryung immediately evacuating that the top left. In fact, great call there from Ryung. He's going to snap call and move to the bottom half of the map, realizing that he's got enough control, at least over his main base for now. You can see he does have a pretty significant army advantage, 92 to 59 at this point. Doesn't necessarily have the best worker count, but Lowely doesn't either, as he is teching up to Hive. This base in the bottom right has been discovered, and Lowely will lose that, a huge hindrance to his late game economy.
And look at how many units are going over there. This should be a clear sign for Ryung to push, but he's still not pushing forward. I think he just doesn't have enough units to spread out everywhere. He's too scared.
And Ryung's been relegated to 2 base for quite some time. His economy is not exactly that strong either. Both players have been playing on pretty low econ. The Banes are rolling in, but they're all clumping perfectly in a line for Ryung to attack. Look at that. Marines running towards Banelings. That's a sight you don't see every day, Andre.
Oh, gosh. Ryung is just throwing... Lowely is just throwing this game away. I felt like he had a... You know, not a insurmountable advantage, but he had an advantage. Not like game 1, game 2.
Ooh.
But
he's not going to be able to engage with Marines, and the Marine tank is not afraid of anything. The mutas have been dealt with, so their tanks don't have to worry about getting too far out of position. And the fact is, you know, Ryung at least has 1 base, and he's been denying base of his opponent, also trying to drop that 4th base, trying to go up from Lowely again, but the top left base is also really exposed. The Ultralis Cavern is only about halfway done, and that is going to still be a significant time, but Ryung's pulling back. Wow.
Okay.
Huh.
You know, I think Ryung is thinking to himself, I want to play a denying style, not a pushing style. Yeah. There's no reason to really take out the 3rd, such that, you know, trying to get such a big advantage. Yeah, because taking out the 3rd, it can be seen as like, okay, well, I won the game from there. Well, Ryung doesn't know he's won the game yet. So play it normal. You know, it's 23 minutes into the game. This base should be mining out pretty excuse me, not that base. These bases should be mining out pretty soon.
Well, he did kill a lot of workers, and he's running by also the 3rd base from Ryung while running by the natural. And Ryung's economy is pretty bad at this point, but I mean, Ryung is, just like you said, playing that denial style, a little bit more safe way to play. But at this point, Ryung is giving time for Lowely to make something happen with 6 ultras. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, that's true, but I mean, it's still a position where the 4th bases are being taken out. So it's like 1 base against 1 base. 1 base Terran against 1 base Zerg. Because the main and natural are going to mine out very soon, and then you're left with a very, very efficient way to actually play out the game. Marine Drop is going to get in here and do significant damage, it looks like, to the Queens. Ultra's going to pop in the perfect timing, targeting down the spawning pool.
Sick timing.
It'd be so sick, but obviously he's not going to be able to get that. Ryung's just going to float over to the top right-hand side and probably just threaten that drop at all times. But Ryung, if he stops this attack on the top left, he'll win the game.
You're right, yeah. That's pretty much all of Lowely has remained. He's going to send his ultras without link support. He needs to keep them in mass together. But you can see immediately dealing with 2 of those ultras, a huge blow. And this is before Lowely's upgrades finish. If he had chitinous plating and +3 armor, Marines' damage would be cut in half. Oh my God, yes. And those are the timings that Lowely would have absolutely loved for, but his ultras are dying so much faster than it needs to.
Yeah, but now he has the almost 20 more seconds, but at least he has +4. And these ultras can obviously do a ton of damage. Baneling's going in the wrong way. Marines are going to just run. And the Ultralisk just gets smashed. Absolutely beautiful play, but you see the Marines now just tickle the Ultras. They can't do what they did maybe 20 seconds ago.
Yeah, and if Lowely had Infestors to really complement the army, he's got so much gas, but not enough larva to spend, really, at this point. If he could capitalize on those Infestors, lock down the army, have the Ultras bust in, completely different story, but Lowely with so much stopped gas, but no amount of larva. Getting dropped again at the main, and in danger of losing his spawning pool, a huge detriment to his ability to produce significant amount of units at this point. And look at that from Ryung, sniping the main queen as well, while playing denial style. This is a very textbook from Terran now. It's just been so impressive because Ryung's been doing this off such low econ. He's at 21 workers. And he hasn't really been making SCVs.
I'm going to tell you the sickest style to do right now, Frodan, when you're on low economy and you're in this situation. All Zerg want is a 4th base, right? And all you want to do is push, but the biggest problem is if they go to the bottom right-hand position, your 3rd base is actually out of position like crazy. This is what you do when you're low economy. Take this whole base, lift it off.
The 3rd base?
The 3rd base. You lift it off, and you take the natural and actually bring it to this bottom middle. And now all of a sudden you have a way to defend and attack the 4th base. And depending on where the Zerg actually take their 4th, you can just make sure that your units are always in good position and you can win the game by constant denial. I don't think that we'll see that.
Yeah, Ryung doesn't really need to, but that's a great,
I'm just saying, man,
hypothetical.
It's like the best theoretical way to play this game out.
Like when John Madden used to explain football plays, he explained the most elaborate things, but no need. Sometimes you just got to run all the way to the touchdown zone, and that's exactly what Ryung wants to do. His Thor and Marines are clumped very, very well behind his tanks, and now you can see Lowely running out of supply, going in for the final kill. This 3rd drops. That is it. Lowely will be on 0 economy. And you can see Lowely does have Infestors ready to fungal, but he's only got 1 fungal left, and the Marauders are going forward. A great pickup and switch from Ryung. Very nice play. Lowely is breathing just on his last few breaths, and he can't really hold on for that much longer. GG gets calmed out. Ryung takes game number 3 in a clean sweep over the Belarusian Zerg and advances to the NASL playoffs.
An impressive run by Lowely, but he gets stopped in his track by Ryung. Absolutely beautiful. You can tell why the Code S level player is where he is, man. And he is going to move on into the NASL playoffs, where he's obviously going to go up against a very potent foe.
Lowely, it's been an amazing journey throughout NASL Season 3.
Salute.
I mean, I did your profile. Thank you so much for all the games, but Ryung will be the one advancing. And what that means is that in the upcoming few days, Ryung will be playing up against another player that was either 1st or 2nd in his division. And if he wins one more series, he goes to the NASL finals in Toronto.
Correct. Okay, Fredden, let me sidebar real quick.
Okay.
This is when we use the Lowely voice. After 9 weeks of playing, Lowely fought valiantly.
Thanks for all the great memories, Lowely. Good luck, and we wish you the best.